Greetings, user. Neural link established. Ready for takeoff.
Dun dun dun! It's time, everybody. Osu Catch World Cup 2020. The final day in this entire tournament has come. It is upon us. But first, we're going to talk about what happened in the entire tournament for a little bit. We're going to talk about last week's matches. We're going to talk about yesterday's match here together with Walter Toro and JB Hyperion. How are you guys doing?
Doing excellent, thank you. It's a beautiful morning. It's 6 o'clock, but we're here to discuss some fruit catch, because what else will we do with our lives in this quarantine? Huh?
Yeah, fair point you're making there.
It's actually a pretty rough morning for us. It's like 6 a.m. for us, but there is no time to waste for this upcoming match that is China versus South Korea, the grand finals of the also Catch World Cup. So yeah, take it away, Sartan.
Yeah, these men actually got up at like 4 and 5 a.m.-ish, so it's pretty crazy when you think of it, but here we are. So let's jump right into it, as Walter suggested. We're going to get started with the matches from last week, as we already mentioned, since we haven't really gone over that at all, and obviously they did happen, so there is need to be talked about them. Starting off with Italy versus Chile. This ended up being a 7-3 match score-wise for Italy, in favor of Italy. Quite surprising, in my opinion, honestly speaking, against Chile. The probably one of the likely top 3 contenders everybody called this year. But yeah, they fell to Italy for some reason. So what happened here, boys?
Yeah, so Chile have been third place in both of the past they were third place in 2019. And we were kind of really expecting them to kind of go the distance again this year. They were definitely one of the favorites for the podium, along with teams like the US and Hong Kong and maybe France. And Italy were a top seed that everyone kind of thought, they're on the weaker side. We don't really expect that much of them beyond Armour and Karim. We don't know how their third player is going to kind of keep up. And towards the kind of back end of this tournament, Trollingor has kind of really stepped up as a player that's punching well above whatever anyone expected of him. So it actually turned out to be a much closer encounter than everyone was expecting. And Chile, I think, won the first 3 points, and everyone thought, oh no, here we go. 7-0 is going to happen. And then suddenly, switch flicked. Whole match, completely different complexion. And Italy just won 7 points in a row and made Chile look, well, whilst being fair to them, they looked very average. Italy just gave no mercy, no opportunity at all. It was a real turnaround, one of the best kind of comebacks I think we've seen in any World Cup match ever.
They had a really rough start. So, as you mentioned, they started off with a 3-0 deficit, but one of those 3 points actually came from an entire team fail on the end of Italy on Hagoromo no Mai, which is a hidden map. Obviously not really the strong suit for Italy, and that really showed this time around with everybody on there and failing. Not really too far into the map even. There was also Lechuguin on the end of Chile who also failed, but that didn't quite matter at that point. But they really ran it back impressively. Wow, incredible performance indeed. There were a lot of fails on the end of Chile throughout the other maps too, which actually gave a lot of points to Italy. But a win is a win, obviously, and a fail shows you that you're just not really playing the map pool too well, I guess. So all in all, yeah, they just ran it back 7 points in a row. Pretty big score differences all around as well, especially due to the fails here and there. Very impressive indeed, but to me, it's quite interesting because Chile was the team to actually take 4 points from South Korea as the second strongest team competing against South Korea other than China. And then losing to Italy like this, it's just a weird sight, honestly speaking. I'm not entirely sure what happened there, whether there was a little underperformance from Chile as well, which could very well be true. But yeah, very impressively, as you already mentioned, Trollingor really stepping up and punching way above his weight class. And yeah, that just made them able to win against a team like Chile very impressively indeed.
Yeah, we have seen Chile kind of underperform a little bit in some matches and then really overperform in others. So we saw them get the 4 points off South Korea, who by all accounts are the tournament favorite. I think that's still pretty much the case. They had a 6-3 win over the Philippines, another very strong top tier contending team. Then they came into Canada, and Canada were winning that match until Chile rallied right at the kind of the 11th hour, and they came back to win 7-5, and we thought, oh goodness, is this Chile that's going to show up, or that Chile that's going to show up? And we weren't really sure how they were going to perform, whether they were going to be like the Chile that we were expecting them to just crush any team that wasn't called Chile, South Korea, or China, or whether they were going to be the team that struggled against good but not necessarily outstanding teams. And as it turns out, both Chiles appeared in that match, except the stronger Chile kind of came in at the beginning, and they couldn't make it last throughout the whole match, unfortunately. And I think it was really crucial that you pointed out that we saw some fails from Chile, because when it was 3-0 and Italy were like, nope, we're going to keep picking no mod because it's what we're kind of best at and it's what we're comfortable with. And we saw the fail from Eldenel on Fluctuation, which did cost Chile the victory there, because he was at like 900k, I think. And from then on, we just saw Italy go on a complete tear. We saw Nachoel fail, even though he got 1,000 combo on Milk Crown on Cinetica. We saw Nachoel and Oriciel both fail at the ending of Shuffle Heaven, and that could have been kind of very close even if the fails hadn't happened. And like, the further and further the match went on, it was almost like you could see the confidence just draining out of Chile by the map. And like, they were like, well, how do we win? Like these we've been winning on these picks, we've been winning on these mods, why can't we win now? And it was as confusing for us as it was for them as to where that former Chile had gone, and Italy capitalized on that at the perfect time.
I think personally might be a game of overconfidence by Chile. If you saw that you have been like 3-0 up, and you have a kind of a lead over your opponent, but even with a full team fail from Italy, you are 3-0. Probably you have enough confidence to win the remaining matches, but it's actually something really strange that at 3-0, Italy like had their nerves like control to get the remaining 7 points. From that, like Chile like just went on. When they had the first fail, probably that's the point where they went really nervous about the rest of the match. Like having a fail or two on every map, it shows that, one, that the map pool is really complicated, and two, that even with their experience, because this is a team that have a lot of years of experience, they didn't control the nerves at all, and on that scenario. So yeah, actually, it's like we didn't like saw with a team of Chile might be like on the control of Italy, but they actually did it. They actually overcome the this hard place that they were, and they actually won the match with 7-3.
Yeah, it's very impressive that as well, from a team that is not really too experienced in tournaments due to their lack of being able to get really far into tournaments thus far. Being able to pull off something like this late in the tournament, that is very impressive indeed from Italy, if anything. So, all in all, a very unfortunate match for Chile, I do believe. Not really showing up to the best of their capacities, and indeed just dropping off at a certain point, not really playing as well as they did in the first 3 maps, and then they just kind of got stomped on. Very unfortunate to see. But yeah, very good by Italy as well. I think it's a clear winner this time around. It's definitely a clear winner, and so I do agree that some people were actually pretty good at guessing that these two, or at least Italy, would get pretty far in the tournament after all, despite their lacking third player. Well, they just kind of showed that they could. So yeah, I think that kind of sums it up. Italy very impressively playing against Chile. Chile not very impressively playing, but we just can't ever really know with those guys. They are really good players, but they have to show up at the moment, and that only happens every so often, seemingly. So kind of unfortunate in that sense. But yeah. I think that kind of sums it up, right? Right.
Sure.
Right. Content.
Yeah.
We'll move on to the next match then, which is Hong Kong versus the USA, which turned out into a 7-3 scoreline for the USA, as Hong Kong just wasn't quite good enough in this map pool, as far as I've been told. Yeah, not well. A lot of people expect a lot from Hong Kong, and not just because they theoretically knew that Hong Kong would be pretty good in tournaments, but rather the fact that we have seen them play incredibly well this tournament so far. Taking a few points off of China, that's really impressive. Beating Canada 6-0. I'll repeat, beating Canada 6-0, right? It's the team that actually knocked off 5 points from Chile in losers as well. A very impressive and very solid all-round team with some very consistent tournament players. People that have built up a lot of experience throughout the years. But the USA with... how would you call this year's USA team, right? It's still a really strong team, this year's USA team, but it's not something that Hong Kong shouldn't be able to grab a few points off, which they did, but in the end they kind of lost to anyway. We had, or at least I personally had very high hopes for this match. I did expect Hong Kong to maybe even take it all the way, maybe even take the win, but that just didn't quite happen. Some of the score differences in that match were pretty grand as well, right?
Yeah, so in our pre-show last week, I think I was the only person of the 4 of us that predicted a Hong Kong win, and our fellow caster and obviously US player Sekre was a bit upset with that. He kind of rightfully pointed out that Hong Kong and the USA have met in the past, and the US typically comes through in the high pressure situations, and the US haven't lost a tiebreaker in 2 years, and he had all of his facts prepared because obviously he's defending his team. But I stood by myself and said, nope, Hong Kong they have Auto LS, they have Auto Fanboy, they have Latifa, they have some really solid players that have been around in tournaments for just as long, if not longer, than a lot of the US team. And I think they share very similar strengths. And the match started out kind of very tit for tat. US would win a point, Hong Kong would win a point. And there was not a lot in it between most of the kind of encounters we saw on Fubuki, I think, which was the 4th pick. We saw Hong Kong getting a break point by, I think, 6,500 points. It was a very kind of close encounter. Auto LS coming in with the FC on that one was pretty impressive. But once we got to kind of 2-all, 3-all, the US really just ran away with it from there. I don't know whether the Hong Kong team kind of ran out of comfortable picks and it became a bit of a coin flip, and the US just came out on top in most of the remaining encounters. We saw Hong Kong coming back on Ito right at the very end, again winning by only 10,000, but didn't really look too troubled outside a couple of narrow victories for Team Hong Kong. So yeah, the US looked really strong. Hong Kong also obviously looked pretty impressive as well, but the US had just practiced that pool into the ground, and it really showed. They didn't give many weaknesses at all for Hong Kong to take advantage of.
Yeah, as far as I've been told by, as you already mentioned, Sekre, one of the US players and co-commentator of ours, his feelings about this match were kind of 50-50. He regarded Hong Kong as probably the strongest opponent that they would face in the tournament, except for South Korea, China, obviously. Expecting them to have some issues with this team, but having a easier time with Italy, and that is quite literally indeed what happened. But also one of the things he mentioned is that he believed Hong Kong to not really have the sort of players that play really well in a finals or grand finals map pool. Being very consistent in tournament maps up to like semifinals and doing those really well and being able to play those in solo really well too, but not really being able to do that in finals. But honestly speaking, I did not really see a lot of that per se, except for a few odd cases like on Hard Rock. Hong Kong did have a few lesser good scores, like Chung B missing 33 times on Shuffle Heaven, for example. Definitely bottlenecking the team there. But honestly speaking, most of the time they did compete quite well against the USA. it's shown in the scoreline as well. 3 points they got, obviously, in the end. Those were narrow points, but at least they got them, and a win is a win. So you need to compete regardless. But
yeah, I think the key advantage that the US had in this match over Hong Kong is Hong Kong are really relying on, at this level of difficulty, one key player, and that's Auto LS, who is, obviously he's an incredible player and he's definitely the talisman of that team. The US have lots of players that are specialists in specific areas, and on a map pool that's this difficult and varied, that really helped them, because it meant that no matter what map got picked, they almost always had one player that was going to do really well. So when the really kind of tricky technical convert came out, you knew Rossold was going to get like only 1 or 2 misses. When it came down to low approach rate hidden, Zach, who probably doesn't end up playing most other maps, he can be the god of like the 10 years of playing the game that we know him to be. When Double Time and Hard Rock are available, then you know that Diao and Secre are going to just completely stomp opposition. When Hidden is around, and Zach is not performing, then Lexi is going to put in a solid play. So Auto LS, I think, was kind of having to do the role of all of those people for Hong Kong, and he had a lot of people that were able to competently back him up, like Latifa and Auto Fanboy, but he couldn't kind of be that carry that was 1 or 2 missing every map like he could in previous map pools. Whereas the US, whilst it wasn't the same player every time, they did have someone that was putting in a really good performance in at least kind of every map, even if it wasn't the same person, which I think was a really good benefit for them, because everyone in that team felt like at different points in the match they were carrying their team. Whereas for some of the players in Hong Kong, they were thinking like, oh, I have to just keep up and I mustn't fail. And that was a lot of pressure on them that they would have preferred not to have, I think.
Yeah, probably like JB said, having a jack of all trades in your team actually helps a lot, because you have someone that is will be reliable on all kinds of maps, but at the same time, someone in that position will have a lot more pressure to actually like, be at high level on every single map. Not like US, when you have a specialist on every map, so they can spread that that kind of pressure in 1 or twice on the side of the map on every map. But I think there is a very big strategy by US, like having your teammates do specific things or be a master on any specific things, more than being one that will get all the pressure alongside the match. So I think probably that's the big key on this match, having a lot of very capable teammates to win the points that they needed to win in this match.
Exactly.
So probably that is the strategy on this match.
Yeah, they were able to swap out players all throughout the match. The only player really constantly playing for the USA is Rostel, and Rostel is obviously a jack of all trades type of player, can do a lot of things really, really strong and really well. So that is the only person they kind of kept in throughout the match, but otherwise they kept swapping players every map pretty much. Swapping between Secre and Diao coming in for the hard rock picks as mentioned, and then whenever there was a hidden pick, he would have Lexi and Zach join again, and that kind of mechanism doesn't quite work out for Hong Kong. They did swap players quite often as well, but it didn't really benefit them too much, as the players weren't really too capable and weren't able to fully pressure USA into getting a point for themselves, as they just didn't really have the skill sets necessary for this kind of a map pool. They weren't playing too bad, as I already mentioned, but missing out on a few points by like 70,000, 150,000. It's not a humongous difference, but it is a difference nonetheless. So, yeah, it's just kind of how it goes. Hong Kong not really able to run with the big boys quite yet, despite their incredible tournament consistency. And USA, as probably most people expected, did take the win with a scoreline that people kind of anticipated as well, even though it was pretty close to almost being 7-1, really. Only 16,000 points before that happened. So, yeah, probably kind of what we expected to happen. Fairly good resistance there for Hong Kong. Sadly, no underdog story here. Hong Kong not really taking the match or anything. But a very valiant effort nonetheless, I should say. So props to Hong Kong, and they got really far in the tournament. They got a pretty much 56th place, however you want to look at it. In a matchup versus Chile, I would expect Hong Kong to take it personally. So 5th-ish place, probably, right? Very good fun.
5th-ish. It's very technical.
Technical we are. That's how we do. I think it's a good time to move on to the next match. We have more USA stuff to talk about, like a lot more USA stuff, really. As we move into Italy versus the United States, this is the final match in the entirety of... no, the second to last match in the entirety of the losers bracket. Only having South Korea and USA after that, and that was yesterday. And the scoreline ended up being 7-1 for the USA. So, not really close even. Quite a stomp, honestly speaking. But I think what we talked about in the Hong Kong-USA match, the exact same can be applied here in this match. As you can definitely see that USA just has really strong, consistent players that they can swap out depending on the map they're playing. And Italy, as we've mentioned many times throughout the tournament, has 2 really strong players, and the rest kind of just has to try and keep up with those 2 really strong players, which doesn't really work out 100% of the time. It did work out against Chile, for example, but not really against the USA. It was quite a huge score difference, 7-1, obviously, and the maps were won by the USA by fairly large margins, more often than not. Due to fails, for example, from Trollingor and a hard rock maps such as Shuffle Heaven, and other maps being lost by about 120,000, 140,000, sometimes even 300,000, depending on the mod. So quite a big gap here between these 2 teams, skill level wise.
Yeah, so obviously no disrespect to Italy. They're an excellent team. They're a top seed. They've made it to like a top 4, I guess. But I don't think they really expected to A, get this far, and B, they definitely didn't expect to win this match. Because they know the pedigree of the US, and you could see from the very first game when the US picked Hagoromo no Mai that they team failed on in the match against Chile. This time around, sure, they still lost by 800,000, but none of their players failed. And you could see that they were just happy to have not failed. They were happy to have seen that they've improved based on from their previous match, and they're like, we don't expect to win, but we just want to score some points, demonstrate that we do belong here, and have a good time in claiming like what is effectively the honeymoon, like the bridesmaid position, the 4th. And they did get that one kind of consolation win, I'll say, on Tenehiro Deodoru, their first pick, where Karim and Arma both got 1 million plus scores. But from there, yeah, it kind of went very downhill. They picked Hidden again. They lost by 300k. Italy kept kind of sticking to the speedier picks, the double time and the hard rock. But outside of that 1 point loss at the beginning, the US looked very kind of up to the task. And yeah, Trollingor's fail kind of made the score difference of 1 million look bigger than it was. There were a couple of kind of 50,000s on Lost My FLP. De Creeper and Trollingor both failed, and the score difference was about 50,000. But yeah, it wasn't kind of hugely close throughout, and US always kind of consistently had a very slight advantage that they took through to a 7-1 victory. I think deserving kind of entry into the losers bracket final. And as I said, Italy, I don't think they were in any way kind of downhearted or disappointed at coming 4th. I think they performed as well, if not better, than anyone expected them to. They didn't kind of get completely rolled in defeat, and they put on some excellent matches, some great tiebreakers early on in the tournament in particular, that were really fun to watch. So yeah,
I
really,
don't
really
think they
happy with their
experienced that as
performance.
great. I don't think they really like.
I don't think it was as great for them, no. But as a viewer and a commentator, they were fantastic. So thank you, Italy.
That is very true indeed.
Yeah, they actually got as much experience as any other team on the tournament. Like they got like 3 tiebreakers to play, and also playing with a lot of like high caliber teams. So yeah, getting this far into the tournament that we haven't seen from Italy in forever is actually a very big experience for them, and I hope that for Italy this evolves into a team that gets this experience into the next year or probably 2 years of CWC, and actually like they can develop into a better team, and who knows what we can see from Italy on the next years. So yeah, I think that's the thing to point here. Having a team that at first we didn't like expect that much and got this far into the 4th place into the tournament is actually a very big team from Italy. So I think it's props to them to actually getting this far into the tournament, and we will see what will happen on CWC 2021.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because they were a team that was put on a lot of pressure as well by the viewers, mostly because they had a lot of big expectations for, especially Karma. Are you kidding? Karim and Arma.
So you're shipping them together, like.
There you go. That's the ultimate combo.
They got a cute collab name. That's beautiful.
Oh, that's very cute indeed. Maybe you guys should take up on that idea. But they had big expectations for those two, the people, and well, they kind of lived up to those expectations for the most part. Some people really thinking that they were able to take 2nd or 3rd place in this tournament as well. Some people like me expecting them to fall off earlier in the tournament, not really being able to make it to like top 6, top 4. But they found a middle ground, pretty much getting 4th place, being very close to that podium spot, but definitely not quite there still. As the USA still really outshone them in this match, and all they can really do is hope for another really strong 3rd player to hop on next year for Italy. Maybe one of their players will improve a lot after this tournament. Maybe they're now really motivated to try and get that badge in 2021. And yeah, just do that, improve hitting a little bit and tweak a few things, and they'll be off to an amazing tournament again next year, I do believe, if they do all of that. They had an amazing run this year. They, as you already mentioned, JBS, gave the viewers like a lot of fun, exciting things to see. Them being in many tiebreakers throughout the tournament. 3, I think, right? 3 in total.
Yeah, so 1 in groups, 1 in round of 16, and 1 in quarterfinals, I think.
Pretty crazy indeed. And
they went with teams like Mexico, Taiwan, and Indonesia. And so getting to
really tough teams.
Really strong teams. Mexico, for example, that didn't really get too far in the tournament, but yeah, impressively done by Italy, coming from where they used to come from, group stage, to top 4 in 1 year. It's just incredible, really, especially considering that Arma and Karim are the only 2 incredible players on their team. Not to disrespect any of the other players, but they're regarded as 2 of the most incredible players in general in OSU, but they are not really all-rounders by any stretch of the imagination. Mostly just being strong on hard rock and double time, but really actually showing up on no-mod as well this year, I should say. And all in all, I'm just incredibly impressed by Italy. Obviously, even more impressed by the USA as to how they were able to only get Italy, only have Italy secure 1 point in total, which is quite crazy when you think about it. When you have 3 double time and 3 hard rock maps in a map pool. So good job to USA from stopping this behemoth, and incredible once again by Italy. I'm gonna toot if you guys don't mind, okay?
Go for it.
I'll do it.
He's doing it.
Incredible. Oh no, he did it.
I did it.
But
yeah, incredible by Italy once more, and congratulations on 4th place there. And I guess we'll talk about USA after another match, which we will discuss before that. But yeah, USA obviously being really strong this year as well. But before that, as I already mentioned, we're going to talk about South Korea versus China, V1 the first edition, the
Yes.
original match, and the
winners bracket final.
Yeah. So this ended up being one crazy match, with China taking it 7-6 in the end. South Korea having this incredible run back after being down 3 or 4 points even. And it's kind of what we expect from these two when they clash against each other. They're just they've always been the two favorites in the tournament. Everybody expected these two to either come first, second, with different orders. And they kind of did exactly that in this match, right? They 7-6, initially taking points from each other, and then China had a really good run through the middle of the match. They took a lot of points in a row. Then South Korea had this incredible comeback to force a tiebreak in the end, and my goodness, they are so good. There were 2 FCs on that tiebreaker from China. Like, what are we even doing here, right? So, what are we mortals trying to achieve on this game when you have gods like that playing as well? But yeah, incredible match nonetheless.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder, like, what kind of existence these guys live on, this plane of existence, that they're able to just casually FC what was until recently, I think, a 9-star difficulty map in a tiebreaker setting against, well, maybe one of the greatest teams in Catch World Cup history. But it didn't look like we'd get anywhere close to that at one point, because after both teams took an opening point, China on very low approach rate hidden, and South Korea on high approach rate, won point after point after point until I think it was about 5-1. And these weren't even like narrow victories either. They were like 50k to 200k. We saw Dusk full comboing. We saw Crystal full comboing. It was kind of ridiculous, and we thought, like, are South Korea actually about to get completely steamrolled here? Like, could they be going down 7-1 to, I mean, China are an amazing team that have obviously won the World Cup 3 times before, but South Korea losing 7-1? I mean, that was unheard of, and thankfully somebody listened and we quickly changed the script to give South Korea a comeback. But yeah, it was very fantastic, and the ending was just insane by all accounts. And the thing that I really enjoyed about this match, and it shows you how well balanced these two teams are, South Korea have lost 14 games, so 14 points in this whole tournament, and half of them were in this match against China. China have lost 10 games in the whole tournament, and 6 of them were against South Korea. So both teams, half of their complete total, all summed losses together, have been against each other in one match. That's how dominant these two teams have been in the tournament thus far. And they just kind of collided, the immovable kind of object versus the unstoppable force that we've seen before, and we're going to see it a second time on an even harder map pool, and it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, they're just on another plane of existence, these people. It's kind of crazy when you go over it and go over those stats, as you mentioned. Only pretty much losing 50 to like 65% of their total points in this match. And it's just ridiculous. Like, the thing is, people, if you look at the multiplayer link, which you can find on the wiki, and you look at the scores they had on each map individually, it's just incredible. They're so high every single time. They're all around 900,000. Sometimes they pass the million. And remember, it's a finals map pool. This is supposed to be some really tough stuff. So being able to perform this well and getting so many high scores every single map, both teams being able to do that too. Yeah, it just kind of goes to show that these two really deserve to be top 2, and they have been top 2 in the past few years. Yeah, it's a really ridiculous matchup once again. And China taking that one 7-6, barely getting that one. Well, they did have this incredible tiebreaker performance, as I mentioned, so they were pretty confident on that point. But yeah, we're going to see that rematch today in about 23 minutes. So I'm excited.
So exciting.
Call me excited, people. But yeah, it's an incredible match again. Well done there. And South Korea obviously then dropping to losers bracket, but they really didn't have an issue there at all against the USA, which we're going to talk about in a bit. If Walter still has anything to add, then go ahead.
No, I think it's something that to be noted that we had two teams that have very vast experience, like fight each other, like having this like long battle 7-6, and looking that we will have 2 or even 3 matches because there is a little bit of hope that we see a bracket reset today, but even there, like it shows like how the experience takes away on this match. How being behind like 3 points, like it shows that if you have the correct use of your nerves, you can like go ahead and win the entire match. In this case,
it could just happen. There's probably like different expectations from all people regarding this match. We're gonna see today. There's many supporters on each team, rightfully so, and it's gonna be an awesome finale to the tournament, definitely. But before that, we have one more match to talk about, which happened yesterday. Yeah, we're gonna recap yesterday, today as well for you people. As well, I think this is the best and most opportune time to do it, actually. So USA versus South Korea, giving us a little bit of a teaser as to what could have happened today in South Korea versus China. We can see how South Korea performs on this map pool. And once again, South Korea really showed up this match. And yeah, USA as a team, which we discussed, something that is like an incredible all-round team with being able to swap out players for every map pretty much except for Russell. Yeah, losing, well, this badly you should almost say, to a team like South Korea just goes to show once again how incredibly strong South Korea is as a country. 7-2 was the scoreline here. 2 points only gotten by the USA. And yeah, these are the kind of maps that the South Korean players do for fun, right? These are the maps in the Grand Finals map pool that these people like to play in solo, like to get really good scores on. And that is the little difference between that team and USA, as the USA would probably just be a lot better in a finals map pool compared to a Grand Finals map pool, because that is more of the ballpark they like to play in. And you have some incredible score differences due to fails and just general complete mind-blowing performances from the South Korean players that the USA players just can't really keep up with. For example, on Hard Rock, Embraced by the Flame, for example, is one really good example. I do believe all of the South Korean players getting over 1 million score, and the USA really just couldn't keep up on those kind of maps with those kind of scores. Same goes for the Last of World Music, for example. Yeah, they just kind of got overshadowed. And somebody's drilling over here, so I'm gonna mute my mic and let you guys talk.
How dare they? Yeah, so South Korea looked almost universally strong. There are a couple of little weaknesses that I think we'll get to, and China will be looking at very eagerly. But I think something that was really interesting about this match is I don't think it went how anyone expected in terms of like the US's performance. I don't know how much kind of coordinated practice the US did as a team, but watching that match live yesterday, it kind of felt like they didn't feel like they were going to win at all, so they just kind of picked things at random. So maybe the score difference isn't hugely representative of how well the US could have done if at peak performance. I still think South Korea would have won, but I think there was a lot of tactics going on in this game from South Korea in particular, with an kind of an air towards not giving China too much information for the match today. So there were a couple of games where South Korea kind of made slightly interesting pick selections, and you thought like, where's Motion? Why isn't he doing the kind of hard rock map? Like, why isn't Rockma playing the double time pick? And like, why is QWHJ not performing super well on the spinner? And I thought to myself, like, are they they know they're going to win. Are they like deliberately sandbagging just by like 5 or 10% to make themselves seem not as strong on a particular pick so that China pick it and then South Korea go, haha, we're actually way better at this than we let on. Thank you for the free break point. And that will be a really interesting kind of revelation if that is the case, or whether China just do say, okay, well, we think that you actually weren't performing very well on this map, so we're going to pick it and we're going to beat you. Thank you for the information from your match yesterday.
Yeah, again, these people think on like a whole different realm, so we can't really know prior to the actual match today whether that is true or not. But that is an interesting thing you mentioned, indeed. We'll just have to wait and see. Obviously, this is still a grand finals map pool, so it is hard even for these South Korean players, even though this is the kind of stuff they like to play in their free time anyway. I do wonder if that would be incredible. That would be so cool to see if they were just gonna perform even twice as good as they did yesterday in today's match, just to trip off China a little bit, because they kind of knew they would win against the USA. I think a lot of that also has to do with just the general morale that the USA team had approaching this match, as they really weren't feeling too confident either way. Regardless of how South Korea would play, they as far as I've been told, Sekre, again, or co-commentator and info broker in that sense, told us that he kind of examined how well South Korea is playing on this map pool, and they've been contacting each other a little bit. Spectator and he have talked quite often about the map pool, and the conclusion he drew from that is that they would be absolutely stomped on for the most part, with them getting scores around 700,000, 800,000, and South Korea getting scores of 900,000 plus. That didn't quite exactly happen, honestly speaking. USA did perform a lot better than they had anticipated. But yeah, they just kind of went into a losing match in their view, and I think that really went and showed up, actually, as you can see in the scoreline, 7-2. They just weren't feeling too confident, and yeah, a unconfident USA is not going to win against a very confident South Korea. Obviously, we know that by now. They could have a better shot at South Korea probably if they really, really tried to, but even then, probably not. They're probably not going to win regardless, even if they did that, because South Korea, as you already mentioned, might just up their game by another notch if that was required. Maybe we'll see that against China today. I think they'll be playing better regardless, because it's their second matchup with this map pool. But well tried by the USA, but this time around, South Korea is just doing incredibly well in this tournament. So does China, and the only points they're going to lose in this tournament are from each other. So that is just kind of how it goes.
Yeah, they actually need to do it twice. Like, they actually need to have this all this experience. They need to show it on at least twice on this upcoming match if they actually want to win the tournament against China. I think this. I am not fond of sandbagging. I think that everything needs to give their 100% on every single match. But this like strategy from Korea might give them a little bit of lead against China, because China can expect these scores or a little better from Korea to get this on the upcoming matches. But if they actually Korea like pulls ahead and give their 100% on this upcoming match, they actually need to do it twice, and on the long run, like, need to win like 14 maps to win the tournament. Is every single strategy needs to be shown here.
Pretty much. I mean, the South Korean players
I do think that a longer... Sorry, go on, Son.
Okay, sorry. But yeah, I'm quickly throwing that in there. They have been in this kind of spot often. They've done this kind of stuff in, for example, the AXS tournament as well, where the Korean players would be split up between different teams. And we've had matches in the past where you had a bracket reset after 8-6 scoreline, and then them losing against 6-8, that kind of stuff. So they're not really too uncommon with a bracket reset type of match, and they're not uncommon playing China either. So they know what kind of task they are going to have to do today, and what how well they'll need to perform. And yeah, it's just going to be really exciting to see their A game and China's A game in this incredible last match. So that is just the thing I'm really looking forward to. But sorry, go ahead, JB.
I was just going to question, who do you think the match favors if there's a bracket reset? Does it favor China because they've only played one match and they know that they can win again? Or does it favor South Korea because they know that they have the momentum going in and it's a level playing field? Because I've been thinking kind of from both sides of the story, and I can't quite make up my mind which I kind of subscribe to right now. So I was hoping for your opinion.
Sure. If I need to give my own opinion on that, I think that if South Korea were to win that first match, it's going to be a really tough time for China to take the second one. Firstly, because you already mentioned the momentum will be on their end, and regardless of the team, that is always going to help out. Secondly, as I already said, the South Koreans are not uncommon to bracket resets, which China actually had less of throughout their time playing tournaments from a community tournament standpoint. So I think that they will perform a little bit better playing in really long matches. So I think they have that going for them. And yeah, I think those two factors will mostly just bolster them in their second match to a point where China probably can't even keep up with them. They obviously also have the favor of already having played a match before against USA, so kind of being warmed up in a sense too, and being able to they know how they will perform in a match type of scenario on this map pool. So if China were to win, they're probably gonna have to do the first match before bracket reset. Otherwise, I think South Korea will be the one to take this match in general. But yeah, we can go into predictions for this match actually right now, as we'll probably need to cut off the stream for a little bit soon, so as we can then undress ourselves and get ready to commentate the actual match. So I think this is a good point to close off on. So Walter, go ahead.
No. We don't talk about on stream there.
No, Walter, go ahead.
Yeah, we need to talk about these two teams. Like they roll into these grand finals. We have China that have matches on groups like 5-0 in UK, 5-0 with Netherlands, 5-1 with Russia. We had also a round of 16 match with 6-0 with Belgium, a 6-1 with Mexico on quarters. They had a 7-2 with Hong Kong. So it's a very expected match. We have expected a lot of China and Hong Kong on that match. And the final that we just recap with a 7-6 from South Korea. On the other hand, South Korea had kind of rough on the start, because on paper, because it had Indonesia on their group, but they actually did 5-0 with Singapore, a 5-0 with Japan, and a 5-1 with Indonesia on their groups. They actually moved into a 6-4 with Chile, and with that they moved into a 6-2 with the United States. That actually shows that South Korea had some experience during the brackets, with facing the very important teams on their road to the grand finals. They also faced Italy with a 7-0, and they lost 6-7 on tiebreaker with China into a 7-2 with United States yesterday for the third place. So very different paths into the grand finals. It will say that I just say that South Korea that had kind of rougher path with Chile and twice United States and Indonesia on groups, but it doesn't matter that much what is the path. The only thing that matters right now is what they will perform on this match, because even if they actually take some points, it just depends on 1 or 2 matches. We will see what happens on these grand finals.
Yeah, maybe Tross can quickly show the bracket as Walter just talked through it, so you guys can see a little bit of a visual as to how that happened. But yeah, as Walter already mentioned, China probably having a smoother ride so far coming into the grand finals compared to Korea. And honestly speaking, though, regardless, it's not really gonna matter at this point. It's all about this game. It's all about this map pool, and it's all about this matchup. And they both know that. Everything that happened before, just they can throw all of that info out of the window. Probably just focus on this one thing, and we're gonna see that match in 7 minutes from now. So I'm gonna ask you two to give you predictions about this match, and we'll get started then. So JBH, what do you think will happen in this game? Who's gonna win?
I think there will be a bracket reset. Because I'm going to get that straight out of the way immediately. Because I think these two teams are just so evenly matched. But I think South Korea are maybe ever so slightly higher in terms of skill ceiling. And since the map pool has gotten a little harder, I think South Korea will perform ever so slightly better. But that said, I'm going to retract on one of my previous comments, and I'm going to say that actually I think that this is China's year. China have been in 3 grand finals and 3 bracket resets in... Well, they had an outright win in 2017, I think. But they had a bracket reset in 2016, where they came back against Indonesia and won. They had a bracket reset in 2018 against Chile, I'm pretty sure, where they came back and they won. And then they had the bracket reset last year against South Korea, where they won the first match 7-4, but then they lost 7-3 in the reset. So I think China have as much experience of bracket resets as any team on any World Cup stage in the game. However, they have learnt from their previous kind of occurrences, their mistakes, their misfortunes, I think. They've looked so super strong. I think their roster is slightly better balanced in terms of having players that kind of can really outperform kind of their peers under pressure situations, even though South Korea may be slightly better and more skilled technically. And last but not least, it's an even year, and China win in even years. 2016, 2018, 2020. They're going to go for that 4th victory and tie South Korea for the most successful World Cup team in catch history.
Those were a lot of commas. Those were a lot of commas in that sentence.
Yep.
Xavier Pian. But that is a very well thought out prediction indeed. Walter, your turn. What do you think is going to happen today?
I want to make it quick. I think Korea wants to make this also quick, looking that China has the experience on bracket resets. So probably going like the long run, like having a lot of points on both matches, it won't be that good for the stamina. So I probably think if Korea wants to win it, they needed to do it quick. At least a quick first match, and probably more like face to face on the second match. But if they are going like all the way into bracket reset, probably China has some bit of advantage with the previous experience. So we will see. I actually want to see China looking at the past experience with them. But if whatever team here, for us, the viewers, we expect a good match from whatever team wins, either Korea or either China. Us viewers, we will see very, very expecting match from these two. So yeah, what is your prediction, Sartan?
My turn! Woo! Right, I'm gonna keep this one short probably. I'm gonna say China. Honestly speaking, due to mentioned reasons from you guys, they just seem to be just this little bit stronger this tournament this time around. They've had a smoother ride. They have more time to be able to achieve a win in this match. They can permit themselves to lose a single match too. And I just feel like they're gonna be just this little stronger than South Korea. My heart is longing for a bracket reset. If a bracket reset were to happen, I think South Korea might actually take it instead, run back with it. But honestly speaking, I think China will probably take it in the first match, if anything. I'm going to say like 7-5 or so. They're going to struggle, but they're probably going to be able to do it. So, yeah, I'm going to say China personally, but it's only like, I would give China like 60% chance and like South Korea probably like 40% chance in taking this one. So it's so incredibly close. It's very hard to call. And that is why all of you should be watching the match, which is going to start in about 2 minutes. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be exciting. We're going to be here with you again. We're going to quickly get something more comfortable to wear, and we'll be right back. So, Walter, I want to thank you so incredibly much for joining us this recap again. And thank you so much for hosting the entire tournament and whatnot together with Juan. It's been amazing again this year, and thank you so much for your insights.
No problem, Sartan. I very much enjoy having to host these tournaments with you guys. I actually I very appreciate that you give your time to actually commentate. You also as players have the. I hope you had a great time here, but it's now time for China and South Korea to define the Osaka World Cup champion of 2020.
And that's very right indeed. JB Hyperion and I will be back in about a single minute. We're going to very quickly get ourselves something comfortable to wear. And we're going to be looking at one of the greatest matches in history of Osu Catch. And you don't want to miss out on it. So do stay tuned and we'll be right back. Thank you so much for watching the recap and enjoy the match upcoming now. Ha